and I was in headquarters waiting for her like an idiot while she was in the hospital. All of a sudden, I get an anonymous call from the hospital saying that your wife is in this hospital. Come over to the hospital. So I told the guy, I said, why you been lying to me? My wife is not in the headquarters. She's at the hospital. So they knew that I was on my way to the hospital.
Yeah,
so
lying to the American people is like part of the game. It's like a cat playing with a mouse. Your pain is nothing but pleasure for these demons of hell that are rapidly... Now, how did all this end? They didn't kidnap your son, did they?
No. They gave me my son, and they give her a DWI ticket. You see, when somebody...
Yeah, well, they want to get you in the system. That's how they really get you for the national debt, is as a slave. By getting you into the criminal system, you are now their slave here in this life. And New Jersey, sir, is one of the worst. Florida's very bad. New York is very bad. Michigan's very bad. California's very bad. If I was you, I would flee New Jersey. Bob Chapman, you want to comment on this?
It's terrifying. It's heartbreaking. It goes on all day, every day, and I don't know where they're finding these people to hire on the police departments, but they're not there to protect and serve. They're there to pick on people, make arrests, particularly on minorities. There's no question. There's many racists in our society, and some of them happen to be policemen as well. And in the states where you can, get a license to carry, and they pull that crap, shoot them.
Well, Bob, that's an interesting perspective on that.
Well, what else are you going to do if you're being attacked?
No, well, you go to the FEMA camp. You hand your children over to them. You let them ship the drugs in.
I never, in the last 40 years in the United States, I never, and my wife never, and my children, when they became 12 years old, never went a day without carrying a weapon.
Well,
illegally.
Bob, I just think it's wrong. The Founding Fathers were bad, like the government says, like FEMA teaches, and we should just submit to any level of tyranny or anything evil. That's what freedom's all about. And, this is the land of enslavement, the land of tears. And that, how dare you, a conspiracy theory that it's the land of the free, home of the brave. It's very extreme and sickening. I'm very ashamed of you right now. Ricardo, let's go back to the full audience. All right, well, for those who are listening on the InfoWars stream, not on the M&FM, Ricardo talked about him battering his wife's head in the car, beating her up, busting open stitches from a surgery she had, saying CPS is going to take your child, reveling in the blood, breaking, things. And, Ricardo, that's just par for the course. In Iraq, they rape children in front of their parents. They pour battery acid on their body parts and do things Jeffrey Dahmer did. I can't even mention on air official Army reports. So there was a big article in the Chronicle this week about all the psycho cops. 4 or 5 tours. Hell has taken their souls. Some of them, others just break down. Others still can keep their humanity. But how did all this end, Ricardo?
They're still, when the guy jumped on top of her at the hospital, there was dramatical hush. There was some social workers there, and everybody was in shock at the hospital. So
the social workers were not vampiric. They didn't go after you. Well, that's good.
No, they try to help him out actually, but it bothers me. They didn't even want to tell me where she was. She was at the hospital. They tell me. Well, that's the good news, is that not all the social workers are bad. And more of them are waking up. That's why they have 50% turnaround with new social workers. Half of them just say, I can't do this. And there are actually good divisions of social workers. It's just the system is corrupt and bad. Ricardo, did your wife get out of the hospital? Yeah, she got out of the hospital, but psychological, Alex, she's destroyed. She will not drive. My son gets up like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, crying, shaking.
Well, that's why they do it. It's to let you know, sit down, shut up. The Congress has been told, sit down and shut up. The Army brigades are here, and it's disgusting. Listen, Ricardo, I appreciate your call. We'll pray for you and your wife. What's your wife's name?
Irma.
Irma. Okay, Ricardo, take care. Bob, you know, this is the one thing I don't like about this show. I have stacks of news of government corruption, and people think I'm trying to make the government look bad. No, I can't bring myself half the time to even cover it. And I know it's true and worse than Ricardo could even describe. And I don't even hate these people anymore. I am just so disgusted that we have a nation of men that aren't manly. I mean, a real man doesn't enjoy beating the hell out of women. A real man doesn't enjoy fighting people that are weak. A real man, doesn't like fighting, but if they have to, men are warriors. They want to fight other warriors. And it's just, I don't know. It's these emasculated, tough guys that watch, fake wrestling growing up, that play the violent video games, and they go to the military and get brainwashed, and they're mad dogs. Bob Chapman, you want to speak to that?
No, I think you're absolutely right, Alex. And many of these men have been in 3 or 4 tours over there. And, what else do we expect them to come back as? I mean, their lives have been in jeopardy all day long, every day. Every time they're out there, their adrenaline's pumping 100 miles an hour. And, by the time they're in their 30s, they're totally physically and mentally burned out. And obviously, police departments are hiring them. And so it's not unusual to have things like this happen. It's because we shouldn't have had a war in the first place. And if we were going to have a war, at least we should have sent enough people to be able to do what we have to do.
Well, I'm going to say this.
They didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm going to say this, and it's happening more and more. Nobody better ever do anything to my children, because I can't control myself. And I think the police know that's starting to happen with people. I mean, you can only push so far. And so what do you say to that, Bob?
If anybody laid just a hand on one of my children or tried to do anything to them, of course they're older now, they're your age, they better go into hiding because I ain't taking any prisoners. And if I go to jail for the rest of my life or I get hung, that's the price I got to pay. But I'm taking them down.
Well, that's the attitude that made this country great. And that when tyrants are afraid, they're not afraid anymore. And Bob, I think the establishment does realize at the top, but low level, I don't think these bullies realize what's rising. I don't think they understand what is waiting behind just a thin wall, a thin line, just waiting on the other side. I don't think they have any idea, Bob.
Well, I know there's going to be trouble, but they think they can handle it, just like they thought they could handle the last corrupt bubble on Wall Street, which was the real estate bubble.
Or just like they thought the whole Israeli... Or just like
incidentally, those guys on television today, they've been wrong about everything. There's nothing they've been right about.
Well, Bob, they also thought that the entire Israeli military can handle a few Hezbollah and checkerboard foundations, but those guys said, we're not retreating, we're not backing off, we're going all the way, and you just can't stop people that are like that, can you, Bob?
No, you can't, and you're fighting on their territory, and, the Israelis have not told us the truth.
Stay there. We're going to skip this break. We're going to skip this for InfoWars stream listeners. Here we go. Bob, go ahead and make your point about how they've, quote, been wrong about everything. I mean, they're the authors of this, and then get into the Israeli thing. Go ahead.
And the invasion of Lebanon, they just got the crap kicked out of them. And then, in the last 72 hours, before the declared truce, they dropped thousands and thousands of these bombs with the things that go out that hang in trees and are on the ground. What do they call them?
Cluster bombs, and they also use nerve gas.
And all they're killing today is innocent civilians, children who pick them up on the street and get blown up, and farmers who are out in the fields and touch one and they don't have any legs anymore. And it's horrible what they did.
Well, they also used, admittedly, nerve gas from artillery. Artillery delivered nerve gas, and then that still didn't work. God help us, man. God help us. Because the New World Order could care less about the police and military. I mean, they don't care if we get into some shooting war with them. In fact, that's part of the larger I-4 plan. Speaking of the bankers, we're going to come back and take calls. We're still on the air right now, though, to the internet audience. Bob, you say that they planned this economic collapse, but it came too early and it's out of control for them. Is it even more out of control for the establishment now, Bob?
I think it is. I think that having to act economically with no way out, no way to go back, has really stuck them. And even knowing that, and they know more about this than I do because they planned it, even knowing that, they still went ahead with the real estate bubble and the securitization of mortgages, gouging not only the public, but particularly other bankers in other countries.